Gemini and Crow people, because I've just seen one cawing away in this early morning as I started setting up for you and meditating on your energy, whoever's turning up to this reading. We have also, to be fair, how has it got from there to there? We have, can't be the same one. We have also got, oh yeah, there's lots of snails, but that was a funny optical illusion. There was a little snail right next to my foot, and then I looked and it's kind of quite a lot further, and I don't know how it would have got there. So I was thinking speedy snail as well. Maybe those things are relatable to anyone else, but there are other snails. So, but they're quite active. I think I've annoyed them by getting on their space this morning. I've laid your cards to see whether you want to carry on. It's about you breaking out your inner magician. It's about you becoming really strong and being able to use your will in a way that I don't think you've been able to for a while. There are other aspects to it, but that's the essential, and it's got a lovely ending and a completely interesting... there's a lot about magic here. It's about your libido, your magic, your will, and your intention. So let's dive in. You and in the interior, we have the Knight of Cups, playing your heart, sitting in this lotus, very resplendent. She's like a goddess of the arts, whose name I forget, but I went to a celebration for her this year, which was beautiful. A Hindu goddess for the arts. I'll put it in the link. So I feel like that's what's coming to mind. It's never come to mind before. So in your, whoever I'm reading for, I'm sure is internally quite an artist, if not externally. And the way that you create your art is through great intuition, but also playing with the energies of the heart, listening to the heart. So that's beautiful. This is you inside, very, very connected, and it's absolutely wonderful. And what it does to you, actually, let's just have a look, see if anything. Oh my goodness, I must clean these glasses. The reflection is standing out to me in the water, as if something about your intuition goes quite far, and all these little stars are the reflection of the lotus, and all these little, almost like fairies around her. She's so beautiful, so lovely, in that lovely pink and red. She's such a great figure. So the fairies, or the blessings, this kind of divine elemental energy that I think is feeding into what your heart feels so strongly. There go the parakeets, off for their day. London has got a huge parakeet population. It's funny, and they're very noisy. So that's you internally, which is absolutely beautiful. And how it makes you act on the external is the star. It's gorgeous. You want to follow, and more of those blessings, more of those fairies. This is the Taj Mahal, I think, or I see it as that. And what is it sitting in? Is it another version of the lotus? It's sitting in another plant. So the nature world and the elementals, with all this magic everywhere, are really communicating to you through your heart, through your healing and your aspirations. So the star is a card of healing and being aligned to your North Star, what it is that you really, really want in life. And I like this depiction of it because it's quite a grand aspiration. And if it is the Taj Mahal that we're seeing, that's a building that was built for love. So wanting to build something from that beautiful heart space, that you really know what you want to do with this healed energy. It's not got the water that normally we see the star character pouring out her emotions. Normally she pours one set of water into the pool in front of her and another into the ground, as if she's got so much emotional stability that she can afford to give it away. Here it's interesting, we're up in the air. There is a grasp on the star, though. You've actually got it in your hands. And there's this nature, this feeling of this plant that you're sitting in and what you want to build. Yeah, I just think you're very, very inspired. You probably are an artist. You probably do something. Whatever it is you do, I think you do with the artist spirit. So it could be poetry, anything, painting, writing. It could be customer services, but you do it in a artistic way. You bring the soul of an artist to whatever it is you do. And so this is you, inner and outer. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's very soft energy, very healed, connected to your emotions, and gentle, and it's a sort of soft pause. It's not very dynamic, okay? At the basis of the reading, though, we have the magician and this strong man who's turning up in the Seven of Wands. So suddenly, the magician is a very wandy energy, even though he has everything on his table. He is brandishing a wand, and she is brandishing a wand there, isn't she, with her light on it. And it's interesting because it relates to you in the external world, healed but holding this great big star on your wand. So the basis of the reading is, I think, how do you break out of whatever this internal trap is that the strong man is now finally getting out of, in order to, I love them, they're quite noisy, aren't they? Now we've got the pigeons. In order to, how do you break out of whatever mental sort of traps to your energy? Now, traditionally, the Seven of Wands is about when you're on higher ground, but you feel really beleaguered. You feel that there's a lot coming towards you. But yesterday, I had a really, really interesting reading of it. Was it yesterday? I think it was on Scorched Earth Tarot. She's absolutely wonderful. Check her out. Where she talked about the 6 wands, that usually you've got one guy on higher ground battling off with his one wand, so like his Ace of Wands. He's battling off these 6 of Wands. That's really interesting to me because we've got the 6 of Wands coming later. I don't know that we've got the Ace of Wands. But what her reading of it, and I've never heard anyone talk about it like this, and it's obviously not the traditional reading, but I really, really liked it, is she said there's a sort of almost a sense of self-sabotage with this way of seeing it. So it would be, we use our who's coming in there? We use our passionate start. We use our Ace of Wands, our drive, in its most I want to say nascent form. I don't even know what that means. I need to look that up. In its most embryonic form, and as a sort of divine idea of being handed a wand, this idea, this beginning of some passion, we use that to fight off 6 wands. Now the 6 of Wands is success. So I don't know. Has there been an aspect? And I thought, gosh, that's interesting. So it's a sort of aspect of self-sabotage. And this isn't the standard reading of it, but I really am interested in it because it sort of talks about the drive turning in on itself. So traditionally we'd say you're a bit overwhelmed, you're trying to get higher ground. The Rider Waite has a shoe and a boot, the character. One foot is clad in a boot, one is clad in a shoe. So there's a sense of complete sort of discombobulation and trying to sort of get all these assailants to leave him alone, but he's on higher ground. But if we then sort of add that meaning out, expand that meaning out, because it's in my mind, and think about, because it will start to fade, I'm sure, if it's not right for other people's, but have you been using your passion somehow? I can see how it would work in this reading. Have you been using your magic, this Ace of Wands, this inception point of magic, this conception, embryonic, this really potent seed point of magic, to batter away your own success? Wow. I mean, if you have, wow, because, and that would not be unusual, because people do sabotage, self-sabotage, and people aren't necessarily brought up to feel comfortable with being successful. It's like that idea in Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert about creativity. I always think about it about collies. You know, there's such intelligent dogs. You need to give them a job. If you don't, they are going to start destroying the furniture. They're going to start destroying everything around them. And she was making the analogy that we start to destroy our own minds, because we have to have something creative to work on. So if we can't find an outlet outward drive with that Ace of Wands, with that kind of those ideas, then we start to sort of gnaw at ourselves and take ourselves down and be neurotic. And that makes sense if you've got the soul of this artist, and if I can see in a potential outcome. I mean, to be honest, you've got wonderful, wonderful cards here. But this is the basis of it. I think that either you're just breaking out, you're just starting to get higher ground where you can start to express your inner magician, or you've been, sabotaging yourself in your creative way. And so the basis of it, we want you to stop. We want you to start breaking out of this prison, this self-made prison, I think. What's got this character into prison? Look how strong he is. Has he got into prison through his own stupidity? Is that a kind of aspect? I'm not calling you stupid, I'm just saying, has he used his own drive against himself and ended up in the wrong place? But he's getting out, and what he's getting out to do is some magic. Right, let me look at her, because she's a completely different depiction of the magician than we normally have. Let's just do the glasses. I love this. You're getting in touch with your magician, and I can see it everywhere now. But it's not been your natural. I think you do tend to not think of yourself like that. Okay, so here we've got the hat, the magician's hat, which normally you would pull a rabbit out of. And out of it, and it's transparent. And there's these beautiful fields throughout, and it's transparent, and out of it is coming this beautiful being, and all this nature, this butterfly, this swan. She's got her wand. I want to try and find the representations of all the things that the magician has in his armoury, which is the pentacle, the page, the pentacle, the wand, the cup, and the sword. So she's got a wand, so that's the wand. And then she's just got lots of nature, and not just, because that's amazing. So this swan, this beautiful swan, so it feels like you are just starting to discover your own amazing regal nature with the swan. And I like how she's got her head slightly coyly away from us, as if she's just beginning, because the magician would look right at us, because he's full of intent, he's full of drive, he's not at all apologetic. She's got her head turned away from us. And it's interesting, it's like a sort of witch's hat turned white, or a dunce's hat with a star on the top. It's like a sort of dunce's hat. It's still the part of you that hasn't quite owned your power. Dunce's hat, like you put on for somebody who's not so clever, and you put them in the corner of the classroom. What? I mean, who ever did that? Such a nuts, awful thing to do. Awful. Who ever did that? So then we've got these lily pads and the butterfly here. So transformation, she's starting to transform into, she's breaking out and she's starting to transform out into the magician. And it's in your hand. So, but it's still a little coy. It's the beginning processes of it, and it's informed by nature. It's beautiful. And again, your outer world healing with the star, with the holding the wand, and it's a very similar sort of image here with the magician at your base. There's the crows going off for their day. So that's the basis of it. You strengthening yourself and starting to use your inner magician, and that's what we want to encourage. With the Ace of Pentacles in your recent past, I think this is the sort of, it's almost like spring waking up. Look at what it's gone through, this journey through the ground to start unfurling. And it looks so, this seed that has planted, and we can't actually see the Ace of Pentacles here. We can see the beautiful spirals of life that are coming and look so sort of prehistoric in a way. Wow, the crows are all coming around. That's those three. They're careening around the nature in our area. I'm sort of having a look. So this is, in the recent past, you aware, I think, of what's growing inside you, and very focused on it. And it feels quite ancient, because this looks to me like quite an ancient plant that's growing. But it's interesting that she's on the edge of this escarpment. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean it's got an edge of the Fool about it? Is it that you felt a little bit on a cliff's edge? I think it's interesting that we can see how the plant grows, like a cross section. I think it feels quite forensic, and it feels, because this is sort of slightly sort of scorched earth. Scorched earth being that tarot channel that I was talking about again. It's sort of bare earth, isn't it? The bare bones. I think maybe this new beginning is coming from quite a kind of precipice type feeling. Maybe it's been a little bit difficult. Maybe things have been stripped right back for you, but there is this new beginning. Now, this is interesting. I nearly put all these back, but they immediately made sense because they came out in a great big lot. Your potential outcome. We have the Five of Swords, the Two of Wands, the Five of Pentacles, and the King of Wands. So I'm going to leave the King of Wands to here to start with, and I'll show you these depictions. So the Five of Swords, which is wrong thinking somehow, and the Five of Pentacles, feeling mentally in both of these cases. In one of them you feel at odds with your mentally, and you want to fight. And look, she's torn a strip off this kind of shadowy figure behind her, and it's been patched up, but it's not. He's all cracking. He's like that cracked earth, isn't he? Really, he's like the cracked earth of the. There's a sort of element of that. It's sort of dried up and desiccated earth is what his coat is made of, and he's at odds with her. She's got part of his coat. It's patched up with her threads, but they're turning apart from each other. They're fighting essentially, and she's not showing us her full face, but she's got this red passionate robe on, which I think this is about your inner magician fighting to come out. I really do. I think it's you not used to using it, not your community not used to you using this inner magician, and therefore it's quite kind of scrappy when it starts to come out, because people aren't ready for it and they want you back in your box slightly, and you're still half hidden. You're still a bit like the magician with her face turned away from us, with that funny white witch's hat or the dunce's hat, something kind of inappropriately belittling to her. And so this is your potential outcome, still having the fight. We say about the Five of Swords, no one's particularly happy with the outcome with the Five of Swords. It's a sort of uncomfortable fight, a Pyrrhic victory. If you're the one to win, you won't like it because everyone's a bit scrappy afterwards. So that with the Five of Pentacles, which is when you feel at odds with your community, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough sense of comradeship, you don't feel you're in the right society, you're outside of these buildings. And look, she's so vulnerable. She's just a sort of a cage for a big Victorian sort of dress, which indicates being restricted somehow and not able to move freely. And in it, her red, passionate inner magician, this red here, is starting to die because it's not been given the right home. So you're fighting to find the right home, and also you're looking at the right society for your magician, and you're also looking with the Two of Pentacles further afield. You've got up on the roof and looking at the moon, holding the world, really contemplating. So Alexander usually holds the world in the sort of Rider-Waite image and looks out to find. You're scoping the joint, really. You're scoping the world. You haven't discovered where to find your expression of this inner magician, or where it will be best placed. I think it's there. The passion and the drive is in you, but it's you haven't quite found the place with those two fives. But along with those energies comes the King of Wands and this woman version of the King of Wands. So in this beautiful pack, Mystical Moments Tarot, there is a male and a female of every king. And in this female version of the King of Wands, I mean, the rose is alive again. Behind it feels like that rose that was on the floor has become her cowl now. and you are it. You're in the center of it. You've found your magic. You've got your wand, and look at what it's giving off. It's absolutely bursting with magic. So I always see the King of Wands as very highly associated with the magician, and I like the power of this King of Wands compared to the kind of slightly demure version of the King of Wands that we saw, who's got all the goodies, is turning into this magnificent swan with her butterfly and everything, but she's not quite owning it yet. This is owning it. This character is owning it. So I think you go from great instability to the force of this magic that you have within you, your ability to transform, your will is irrepressible. You just have to have the right intent. So it feels like all the kind of ingredients are there, but the intent, because that's the magic ingredient with the magician. He has everything he needs on his table. As above, so below, the infinity above his head in the traditional images. But the thing is to know what you want to do with it. And I think this image is coming to me like it's just sort of bursting out of you, but you're not quite sure with those 2 5s where to put it. It's funny, this just fell off the top of the pack. The World, again, a bit like the Alexander, the 2 of Pentacles. There is a sense that you're starting to put yourself, that 2 is looking to put yourself right in the centre of your world. I'm going to put it back, but it was an interesting comment. So then, coming up in the near future, we have the Hierophant, your wisdom, and it's almost like a sort of wisdom tradition. It's just coming to me as I'm sort of speaking this. I didn't think it before, but maybe coming up in the near future you find a group or a tradition of witchcraft, magic, manifestation, and I mean witch for me is an enormous compliment. There's no negative connotations at all, so it would always be white magic. It would always be aligned to nature. It would always be very good and pure. It's just about aligning with natural forces for me, not just. There's all sorts of things to it, but so it almost feels like you're finding a tradition, because the Hierophant is a card of tradition. I mean, obviously it would represent the sort of Pope and the tradition in that way. Here I feel like you're finding a magical tradition. You're up in the tree and you're learning something from this deep, wise character. And it's sort of like the 2 of Pentacles. You're up in the tree, the moon's there, you're up up above the roofs. And yeah, I think maybe there's something traditional, and by which it will seem quite unconventional to other people, but it's traditional law. Maybe you find a book that just makes sense to you. Maybe something unlocks. And there's green leaves starting to show on this tree because you're learning from him. Now, what was I thinking? Yeah, the Hierophant tradition used to be a papyrus. There used to be a lot more in the original Tarocchi. Oh, I went to such a good tarot exhibit repeatedly in London. It was at the Warburg Institute, and a lovely thing I did this week was go to listen to an Italian actor read from Italo Calvino's book Something Castle, which is a book that he did with an experiment where he used tarot cards to tell a story, or he allowed characters to describe themselves through tarot cards because they've all lost their voices. And anyway, it's a very short book. I recommend you check it out. I'll put a link to it. So that's coming to me, but just a sec. So the Hierophant, the 5, so another 5, because we've got these 2 sort of tricky 5s, the 5 of Swords and the 5 of coins, where you feel left out and you feel scrappy and like nobody's enjoying this argument that has to happen, the fight that's been won by you probably, but everyone feels annoyed about it. And now we have the 5. It's as if that's slightly healed by the major 5 of the 5 of Hierophants, of the Hierophant. So there is something traditional. So yes, I was saying traditional, so it could be traditional law about manifestation. It could be the church, because there's plenty of prayer which is manifestation, or it could be temple, or it could be synagogue related. where you go back to something that you learned through your traditional religion when you were a child that still allows you to connect to that idea of manifesting. Or it could be something from your tradition, your family tradition, your clan's tradition, your people's tradition that informs you. So, for instance, I'm, here in England with lots of ancestry that would relate to Welsh and Irish and probably a bit of Scottish. I think it's mainly Scottish and Welsh, but I'm sure there's a lot of Irish. And then some Eastern European, which we're not quite sure about where it comes quite from. But so traditions, trying to find traditions that you relate to. So for me, very much Celtic lore really makes sense. Depending on your background, that might be true for you. So it's sort of that, there's an element of that as well, teaching you how to get into your inner magician, because it gives you some strength, is what I'm saying. That's why I'm spending so long on this. It gives you the backbone, the strength to understand that you have the right to use this power, because the magician is very, very powerful. But I think it's nice when it comes with the good teaching. So maybe what's been happening is you feel a little bit shy to use this because you're so connected to your heart and you're so soft, and the star comes after the tower, and that's your outer world. So there might have been some shocks, and maybe you feel frightened about the power of it. Maybe it feels that you're so powerful. What happens if you make a misstep? A lot of people feel like that, and I relate to it. When you first start manifesting when you're a teenager and you make stuff happen, I definitely made some stuff happen, and it kind of shut me down in a way afterwards, because I was like, I was young, things had to change again, but it was very impactful what I manifested. And then, well, that was scary. Should I do that in the future? Should I not be led by something? So I suppose you're looking for something to lead you, and that will be in a greater sense of community and wisdom that connects you to a whole, which will make your magic feel safer for you. Coming up in your attitude, the Lovers, this goes back to that beautiful King of Cups with your heart that you're playing in your inner world. It is the King of Cups, Knight of Cups, sorry. The Knight of Cups in your inner world. So, this is your attitude. You really love life, and I love how different this bluebird is that she's hugging. And I've looked up bluebird. They're a sign of great lucky, happy fortune. So it's you and your inner attitude. You want to take the choice that's being offered to you, because the Lovers always means that there's a big choice being offered. So I think you want to take this option of using magic, of becoming it more intentional, of becoming more powerful. And also you want to align it to your heart. You want to make sure that those that you love, the things that you love in the world, are honoured still. So that's really, really beautiful. And in your environment, the Wheel of Fortune, things are changing. And when I saw this, and I've never seen it before in this card before, it made me think of a big party that I'm an event organiser as well, that we did for Amnesty International years and years ago, and I was the lead. But it was a big committee thing, but I did the majority of the work on the event. Because I was the only person in events on the committee, and it was this friend of ours on the committee who came up with the design, and I loved it, a guy called Tom, who's an architect, and he designed this giant Queen Victoria who was like, we put her on scaffolding, so we had a little tiny woman stood on a scaffold platform, and then these giant skirts, because it's a bit like this, we made that structure for a little person to stand on top of, and then inside, there's a reason I'm telling you this, I haven't got to it yet, but inside, instead of the cogs like this, we had it open just a tiny bit, not so far, and there was a tiny little, because she was so tall up, she was high up, she was several feet into the air with this beautiful fabric coming down, and in her skirts we made an absinthe bar. Absinthe being that kind of very trippy drink of the poets in Paris, really, isn't it? And it can make you quite psychotic, as I saw that evening with some people who'd taken quite a lot of it. And it's kind of got that feeling of the fairy and the absence Moulin Rouge, you know, this kind of elemental spirit, but an elemental spirit that can become a little bit naughty if you deny your inner poet, if you deny all this magic, all this kind of poetic soul that can create. It's making me think of the absinthe bar. So it's and I think it's because we've got that 5 of Pentacles with your inner beautiful rose dying within this structure. And now we've got these cogs. So the Wheel of Fortune is great. It is all moving forward, but it's just a note of caution. You have to keep in touch with your inner poet, with your inner spirit, so that it doesn't turn bad on you. Like that idea of the collie again. You remember that idea that when you're not expressing your amazing inner artist, it can turn against you. Now, I don't see this turning against you. I just see that the wheels are turning. And so, you know, the absinthe bar represents to me some great intoxication, but ultimately you don't want too much of that, because you can get a bit out of control with it. It's got the sense of it's so alcoholic, and it's so strange what it does to the brain that you can't really control it. So it's a bit like magic that's got out of control, to be honest, and has been unleashed. You want to be in control of this. Whatever is changing, all these cogs, make sure you're in control of it. And I think she does look in control of it. Let me have a look. And I like that, again, the rose isn't underneath the skirts now. That rose that was dying in this kind of, say, poisoned absinthe bar, where you're not really in your natural realm of the poet, the artist, the magician. When you're outside in the cold, your inner rose, your heart, that heart that you're playing in the Knight of Heart, your real being, your beautiful being, starts to die when it's not in the right place, when it's in this toxic absinthe bar. But here, the rose colour is on the outside. She's wearing it. I think she's in control. She's got her heart on one of the cogs, so she's listening to her heart. I love it. The heart, that rose, has gone up into her actual heart now. She's holding a clock, and things are moving on. And I think this is you starting to get control of your magic. It's absolutely wonderful in your environment. And then in your hopes and fears, the King of Pentacles, you want to be recognised, you want to be secure. So the King of Pentacles makes everything totally secure for everybody, and this is you wanting the resplendent security. Again, we've got the female version of this king. There are both versions in the pack, and here it's got a lot of the Queen of Wands, actually, with all these yellow flowers and her yellow fan. I mean, they're not quite sunflowers, but they've got the sunny disposition. And it's interesting, she's got the city in her hair. She's sort of in charge, isn't she? She rules this domain. And that's what the King of Pentacles does. He looks after his whole domain. What else is standing out to me? Have we got any other cities here? No, but this is you basically in your right place, isn't it? You're no longer outside like that 5 of Pentacles with her funny skirt frame and the dying rose. You're in, and you're being looked after. You're resplendent. You've got all this optimism and all this coinage. You're rich. So I think, you want to make some money out of this as well. I think that's very important, money and security, and you want to feel you can look after everyone else around you. And coming up in the outcome, Gemini and Crow people, firstly we got the 7 of Pentacles, which I love. So it's you working steadily towards this, and there is a harvest. And I love that you've got these beautiful apple seeds that are ready to go to plant more and more of these trees. So you're thinking about the future here. It's very King of Pentacles. You're not just thinking of a quick buck. You're looking at what's coming next. And also apple seeds are a bit like that Ace of Pentacles that you had in your recent past. They are going to be strong. They're going to be strong, and they make us strong. An apple a day makes us strong, doesn't it? I love that if you cut the apple the other way, not the way that they've cut there, but if you cut it across the middle of it, you'll get the witch's pentagram, that 5-pointed pentagram, which is your power again. It's interesting that we haven't cut it this way, but there's a hint of that. So you're working towards getting really in touch with your power, being able to manifest with it, and you're really working on your inner magician, and you're planting more and more seeds. And there's something else about apple seeds, that they always say don't eat them, and I'm not a doctor, so don't do anything I say, but I've always eaten the entire apple. I love apples, and I crunch on those seeds, because they say they have quite a lot they have arsenic in them, but anyway, I'm not a doctor. They also have something called B17, I think it is, in them, which is very, very good for you. You don't want to have too much of the seeds, but I think one a day with some seeds is very good for you. Look up B17. I think it's got anti-cancer properties. And it comes with, I wanted to cap this, and it says, I capped it with the Six of Wands, which I just love. So now you're not beating, you remember that image of the 1 wand beating the 6 wands down on that traditional rider Waite, where there's a man smashing down all these, I'll put a picture in the notes probably, so that analogy from Scorchers that I'd heard her talk about tarot, which was, that you have your 5 wands, 6 wands that you're self-sabotaging with. You're using your will against yourself, against your success. Now you're working on your success. You're fully riding that joyful hummingbird that's being fed with the nectar of life, and everything is good. You're working on your magic and accepting your inner magician. And I think you're really, really getting there. It's another 7, so we're not 100% there. I haven't bought the charms with me, but I have bought, I'm just going to put this down for a moment while I shuffle. I have bought the Lua Tarot, so we'll just cap it out with anything further. Charms next time. I left them, it's annoying, I left them inside. I can't stop this now. Okay, but we'll do it, we'll cap it with these. Oh, I'm using the book. Oh, get the book out. Anything further that you'd like? That's it. What have we got? The 9 of Swords has come out, saying that you're still a bit worried. It's talking about this worry. So here, with the 9 of Swords, it's interesting. My sister and I wrote a story once that we haven't finished, but it involves a nightmarish 4-poster bed, which is a bit like the idea of kind of constant fear being dripped at you through media. So maybe there's a cautionary note. I'm definitely going to cap that again, to say don't allow fearful voices in yourself, because the 9 of Swords is overblown fears. Okay, it's not, sometimes we want to take notice of them, but I think that there's something frightened. And what are you frightened of? How interesting with the 9 of Swords. We haven't got any other of that 9 energy. So, okay, so there's still something, maybe that's why you're still working on this. Let's have a look. Let me put this down again. Let's ask, why? What's the fear? Okay. I get it. You are frightened about how powerful you are, because look at these 8 of Wands. This is your messages all being aligned with intent. This is social media, messaging, letters, speech, being a great writer, being a really good communicator, and also very goal-driven. Look at how they all align. So there's some fear around the way you communicate, people hearing you talk your speak with your magician's voice, because maybe that feels a bit revealing, and also the intent. It's back to that feeling I was talking about again. When I was a teenager, I was an incredible manifester, and I really manifested the most amazing relationship with someone who, over a period of time I really love and don't feel anything bad towards him now, but it was problematic at the time and a little bit anyway, whatever, you don't need to know the whole story. You know what that kind of you know how that story goes. And I then became frightened, and I think that's it with you. I think that's the bit of the reading that's coming back. It wants to be attended to. So we're going to ask one more question. How can those who are watching this and relating to this get over this fear of how strong their magic is and how being a bit revealed as a magician. One moment. How can they get over this fear? What's some advice for getting over the fear? The Hierophant. So I love it. We're going all the way back to another part. This is beautiful. So it's another version of what I was talking at length about. This is what will stop you being frightened, is get in touch with your roots, whether it is your Celtic roots, your deep mystical Jewish roots, your African roots, your whatever it is, the root of the magical tradition that you come from. Get in touch with that, your Hindu roots, your you know who you are. And if you don't have a sort of strong sense of where your roots would be, then do some digging. I'm not saying go and do one of those genetic tests. I'm not sure what I think about those. I'm not sure I'd be rushing off to do one of those. Use your heart to see what you maybe you just relate generally to the idea of shamanism. If you're Ukrainian, for instance, or Russian, there'll be a lot of that. Or if you're in your background, you'll know, I'm sure, if you're watching a tarot. So take some strength from your roots and learn a tradition somehow. Learn some parameters that will stop you being worried and give you protection and give you the answers to any, I'm worried, undoing any of your worry by realizing that you're being well guided. I hope that your intuition, and I think it will because you're a magician, is on point enough to know what it is that you need to reach for, whether it's a book, whether it's an online course, whether it's a teacher that you know, whether it's reading the Bible, whether it's reading the Quran, whether it's, I don't know, reading some sort of magical text, something that relates, something on shamanism, or meditating. Just get into something that's traditional for you and use that to ground you, because there's nothing frightening about your intent. It's good. Keep it aligned always to good. However angry you are, it will only come back at you. You can never use your magic in a bad way. You can, but you will pay for it. So you don't want to do that. I don't think those kind of people would be attracted to this reading anyway. What you want to do is gain some confidence in using your intent. What a wonderful reading. I love it. And so we had snails and crows and all the birds turning up for us. So those can be your charms. And think about moving slowly like the snail, but actually weirdly quite fast. The magic of the crow and his relation to the other worlds, and the parrots all darting in a line and speaking their truth, and the pigeons enjoying the undulations of the air. You've got all the magic. Don't be worried. Just use it very responsibly and do some research. See you again.